Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Uptrend. We're so excited to have you. I see a lot of folks rolling in the door, so I'll just give a little introduction and then we'll jump right into the content. So this is our ongoing series where we really get to talk about the important things to the email community. And at Inbox Monster, we're very lucky to have lots of smart friends. So we get to invite those friends on and really go deep on a topic and help you impact your metrics and send them going up in the right direction. And hello, Zoe from Northampton, Massachusetts. Hey, everybody. So today we're tackling a topic that is, I'm going to call it my favorite already, because it's very near and dear to me. And it's just the idea that people don't read. We have this unique challenge as email marketers where we pour over every single detail. And then the cold hard truth is that most people are scanning our emails at best. So what are you to do about that? How can you still be very engaging and be very impactful in the channel, knowing that people really, they're probably not reading your emails? And I say this as a writer, unfortunately. So I have with me today Naomi West. Very, very happy to have her. She is a product marketing manager at Parcel, which is an awesome platform. It truly is a coding platform made by email people for email people. Hi, Naomi. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. And I spent basically my entire career creating emails, not knowing if people read them, but hoping they would. And just hoping. That's all you can do. And I just wrapped up a really fun A/B test last week that tested text-based email with no design, zero design, nothing fun, versus a really designed email. And so this is very timely in terms of, does design catch the eye? So excited to talk about it.
Are you going to reveal the results?
I will. I'll talk about them at the end. I would love to hear. I'm somewhat like of a better. If you have an idea of what you think a welcome email from a B2B SaaS company, if you think variant A1, which was text-based from me saying, hello, welcome to Parcel, versus a very nicely designed email, similar copy saying, welcome to Parcel, that had product imagery. If you want to make a bet in the chat for which variant you think won, I will then reveal the winner at the end.
Ooh, this is so much fun. Okay, she's surprising me because I didn't know we were going to have a grand reveal, but you know what? I think that sometimes a welcome email, if it's really personal, could just be from a human and it could just be text-based. So I will bet against the visual email, but we'll see what everybody else says. Oh, we're getting some text-based ones. I like it. And just to introduce myself, I'm Laura Sullivan. I work at Inbox Monster. We're an email signals platform, so we deal in a lot of deliverability signals, email rendering, and so much more. And in a previous life, I worked, it looks like a fire truck's going by Naomi's house. I worked in the agency world. I worked on a lot of big brand email programs and loyalty programs. So I have kind of that perspective as well. It's really great to see everybody saying hello. I love that. So we wanted to do something fun for the agenda because we're talking about visual communication and getting your ideas across visually. So we have this lovely little set of emoji here. So this is what we're going to tackle today. First of all, we're just going to bring you a little bit of information about why you should care, maybe blow your mind a little bit, who knows. Then we're just going to give you an onslaught of inspiration. So lots of different email designs. We're just going to flash them up rapid fire and hopefully inspire you to try something new with your email designs and communicate visually. But then we're going to stop and think about what are all the technical details that are super important, a no BS approach to getting this right. So that's everything from the size of your emails, the size of your imagery, thinking about accessibility, which is so important, deliverability, which a lot of us on the call have top of mind. And just one little cheat here is that I am going to add some words to this slide. Please react, ask questions, shout us out in the chat to the right. We'll try to address things as we go, but at the end, we will also have some time for Q&A. And we will try to keep this to 45 minutes, just knowing that everyone's attention span is very short. We totally get that. And speaking of short attention spans, so you all probably have seen the Litmus State of Email report. This is something that they have put out every year, and it's really looking at like a bajillion email sends and thinking about how much time do people spend on the email. And it's very interesting to see the trend going down. So from 2018, when the average read time was 13 minutes, to the last year when the average read time was 9 minutes. And I would even add a caveat here that it's probably not even read time. It's probably just see time, because a lot of times people are just quickly going through saying, is this relevant to me? And then moving on to the next one. So we know that, these metrics probably will continue to go in this direction, and we'll have less and less time to get people's attention. Something that I think is really interesting, a number that has always stuck with me, is an article that I read in Fast Company, which essentially kind of aggregated some, more scholarly studies to show, just how different it is for people to read versus look at images. And they're able to recall and process 60,000 times more information from an image. So you get all of that tone and all of that context, and your brain is just kind of wired to process it visually rather than take in text-based information. So we know that we can have more of an impact if we lean into those visuals. That's pretty crazy. And in the article, they were actually wondering aloud if we have attention spans that are less than a goldfish, which is pretty sad, but maybe the reality that we're in.
I will say, when I saw that, sorry, this fire alarm in my building. I'm just gonna pretend like it's not happening. It's not happening. No, it's not. I will say, when I saw the stat of 9 seconds, I was shocked, because I think I give an email maybe like 1.2 seconds of my time. I'm constantly like, open. If it takes too long to load, swipe to delete. I don't know. Do people here give an email 9 seconds each? Like, are we actually all scanning emails for at least 9 seconds? I'd love to know if I'm the only one who gives an email like 2 seconds of my time. But
I'm willing to scan down and scroll down through a longer email these days. And I think that maybe takes me a moment. So if you average it together, maybe that's a very generous read.
9 seconds is a long time.
Maybe 3.
Like, if you're to count to 9 seconds, I'm like, ooh, I'm taking my time with this email. So I'm glad. Okay, 3 to 6. That's I would say, okay. Depends on the sender. That's also a great comment. Yeah, if you have like a reputation where you know the content of the sender, I'll give them more time. But good. Glad I'm not the only one.
Sure. Absolutely not. So we're going to flip into just kind of some ideas, tactics, visual inspiration with some really great emails. And I will mention that we put a little box over all of the logos, just so that we're not, shouting out any one brand in any particular direction. And we're really looking at the design and not bringing the context of the brand itself. So these brands are all over the place, all different industries, B2B, B2C, really just kind of scouring around for the people who are doing things really, really well, and putting some, trends together of like, oh, these are good for this reason. So the first one here that I really love is the idea that you can use type as a visual and do something interesting with the typography. Something that I hear all the time from brands is just that, well, I don't have any images. I don't have good photography. And, my company is not going to create some expensive photo shoot just for my email program. We're always the last one that they think about. And unfortunately, there's sometimes truth in that statement. And so you have to get really creative with the assets that you do have. So I love each one of these examples because they were able to use typography as a kind of visual. In the first example, it really is kind of the hero of the email. And in the second example, I've always kept this because I'm like, this is such a cool idea. They wove the percentage of the sale into the image itself. And it's almost like an image in an image where you stop yourself and look at it.
I actually didn't even see that. This is the first time we've reviewed these slides together, and I did not even see the 60% off woven in there. I thought it was just like a nice little ribbon. I thought it was like a ribbon on Black Friday. Like, my brain didn't even see it's funny because then on the third image here, we see 20% off is so clear, but I didn't even see the 60% off in the. I mean,
I love the way it trips you up and stops you a little bit of like, what is that? Oh my gosh, that's the percentage. And of course it's repeated in the body copy. So I think it's reinforced for those people who maybe just like glossed over it. But I think it's kind of cool. And then the last example is just straightforward. You know, I think a lot of folks, you'll have like a product image or, you know, something simple that you're like, oh, I'm so tired of looking at this. How can you add type to it to make it more interesting?
The subheaders too.
But yeah, everyone agrees with you.
The subheaders are so valuable,
yes.
right? Like with the example in the middle where you do see Black Friday, the subheader of the huge sale is here is great. Like my mind looks at Black Friday and then navigates to the subheader. And same with the extra 20% off. The subheader there is your purchase when you buy 4+ styles. So it's such a interesting hierarchy that's so important when you design emails.
Absolutely. And if you are going to put type in an image, the alt text and the subhead become so important because those need to tell a story together as well for those who are not going to see the images or have them off. So, you know, a good important caveat. I love we're like group creative directing these emails right now. I'm really loving this. How far down is the CTA on the right, and is it a concern? So I always, I'm getting off track for just a moment, but I have lots of conversations about the fold in email. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, like I'm more likely to scroll than I am to read. So I place a little bit less importance on keeping everything super high up in the email. I think having engaging content that keeps people moving through it is, for me, you know, the most important thing. Of course, you want to have a CTA that people can quicker get to, but, you know, the idea of the fold, I always, you know, I'm like, it's digital. There's no fold. We're not folding it in half. And screen sizes vary so much. So interesting. That's a whole topic we could get into. So moving along here, I wanted to talk about just illustrations in general. And if you do have a lack of photography, or maybe you have a brand that's an application like ours, and you've got a bunch of phone screens, or you've got a bunch of computer images, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with these things? How do I make them interesting? These are two kind of, you know, far ends of the spectrum, but on the left-hand side, you know, a bespoke illustration style that's really cool and three-dimensional, and maybe each time you're doing something unique. To on the right-hand side, where they've just sort of added labels to a simple product image to give it another layer of meaning. And they've made it interesting by zooming in on a detail and then showing the whole wallet and you know, just giving more information about it. So I think these are kind of ends of the spectrum, but something that makes me really excited is kind of a democratization of illustration that's happening right now. And there are so many sites out there where you can go find entire illustration styles that have lots of different options. And maybe you can find something that works really well with your brand. So these are 3 sites that I love to go look at. One Page Love, which is kind of a collection of different artists, and they put their work out there. Streamline HQ, which is really an icon set that I love, but they also have illustration styles and lots of variety within those styles. And then Creative Market, which is always a great place to go hunting for illustration. But something else that I have to mention, because you can't not mention it, is just the AI tools that are out there now for creating imagery. And the 2 that I've used are Dolly and Starry. But it's crazy what you can tell them and what you can come up with. Sometimes very creepy, and probably a whole other topic for discussion, but you can say, you know, give me yarn dolls in a different dimension that are checking their email, and you can get an image. So really there's so much more at our fingertips that we can do. And Photoshop AI is amazing. Nina just threw that out there too.
I need someone to teach me how to use AI imagery, because I, spend so much time figuring out what prompts I need to ask these tools in the first place.
The prompts,
like, there's so many things that tell, oh, the time savings with AI tools. And I sit there and I'm like, what do I need to ask to get a nice image of this thing that's in my mind that I'm having trouble creating on my own? And I will type in a prompt and it will deliver like a human that has 3 hands,
something
and like
wacky
10 fingers, and then it doesn't end up matching the brand standards. So I have not cracked the code with AI tools, but I'm excited
I find
in
that
5 years' time to look back and be like,
yeah,
oh, that's where we were, and here we are now, and it's a different place.
totally. I personally find that anything with a human in it feels more creepy. And so using objects in the prompts versus like people always makes it feel a little bit better to me, but I'm by no means an expert. Like I would love to learn more. Someone needs to offer like a online learning course for this particular thing for sure. And I think someone just asked me, what was the last site? So on the last page, that was Creative Market. And by the way, guys, we're going to send out this recording to everyone as well. So don't worry about taking notes. We will send it on your way. So this next little grouping here is really all about, it's kind of a cheat because you're still using an image in your email, but sometimes, there's ways to make it feel like you're breaking the plane and kind of creating something organic with the email, even though it's very gridded and that's how you're thinking about coding it, designing it. Is there a way to, either use your boring phone image that we were talking about earlier in a new and different way, or pick up something from a photo itself and place it in a different place in the email, just to give it a little bit more interest and to make it feel more organic and natural. So I love this. Oh, someone's like, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned really good emails. Just you wait, we will get there. We will get there. Definitely a source of inspiration for me. And then kind of to touch on a trend, we were talking about organic shapes and making it feel not gridded. I certainly see a trend these days of interesting shapes. So whether it's kind of the wave in this little founder's note, which I really love, or just cropping an image so that it feels like it's in a keyhole or being framed by something, or putting images together in a way that creates a new or different shape. I think there's ways to get really creative with it. And this is an email trend that I actually really love. And I see it everywhere these days. And then I think lastly here, just in showing the visual inspiration, I'm seeing a lot of dark styles. So of course, thinking about dark mode, testing your rendering, testing the crap out of your emails and making sure they look good in dark mode, that's a whole other topic of discussion. But I am seeing a lot of people just leaning into dark mode by itself. And that really allows the images to kind of shine through and to have a different feel. So I like this a lot. So one thing I will mention is that all of these emails that we've shown already, they do have text. Even though they tell that visual story, they use live text as well. And a balance is always important. You want to have that extra layer of information and content that's going to get your information across. And so one little test that I do sometimes, especially if I'm reviewing an email and someone has looked at it 100 times, is I do this little scannability test. So covering up everything from the top navigation to the body copy to any kind of sub headlines, and just seeing, does your email tell a story without any of the text present? Because unfortunately, this is how many people are going to just look at your email and either get it or not get it. So does the CTA and the hero image tell a story together, basically? Oh, the curse of Gmail clipping. Yes, Nina, we are going to talk about it. You betcha. We'll get there. And so giving a shout out, as we already saw in the comments, to some of our inspiration sources. So Email Love is one that I look at. It's not as robust as really good emails, but it does, provide another kind of collection whenever you're stuck trying to design an email. Really Good Emails is awesome, of course, kind of the place to go to get inspiration. And then I'm one of those email geeks who just fills up my inbox with random brands emails and just browses the promotion tab to see what's going on. So shout out to those email geeks everywhere who do that. So now we want to get into those nuts and bolts, that like stop and think moment where we talk about, okay, this is great, I'm inspired, but how do I pull this off in a way that technically is going to work for the inbox? I love your fire.
Sorry.
Is someone gonna come like collect you?
I don't know. I'm waiting for a wrap. Like if you see me leave the frame, I'm not okay.
All right, we will send reinforcements. So just to kind of get into the weeds of the accessibility concerns here, and now I'm super curious to hear your results as well from your.
Okay, so we've looked at some amazing emails and the ones with fun shapes and ones that catch our eye, right? But a lot of them are image only. And there are some cruxes with image only emails. And I'm going to show you with this example. So this for me is a nice looking email. I love the colors. I can see the product front and center. I can see exactly kind of a deal or incentive for me to purchase. And that's advertised by the subheading text or the heading text here. I get a free mini face oil with orders of $25 plus. And I'm like, amazing. I love that. But you have to think about beyond just what looks good for your brand. Again, I'm just waiting. Beyond what looks good for your brand, is it accessible for your subscriber? Is it going to be able to be read by someone with kind of maybe not 5G internet connection? How long will it take for the email to load? And I'm going to show you when I turn images off on this email specifically, this is what I get. So there's no alt text being used, which is really unfortunate, which means anyone leaning on a screen reader will not be able to consume this content. A screen reader will simply read out this alt text, which says button text. It will read out the 3 words at the bottom: shop, about, contact, manage preferences, or unsubscribe. Not once do I know if there's a deal. Not once do I know what the product is that's being promoted. And so there's one side of things, which is people don't read, and it's important to create an email that is eye-catching or provides value to someone. But if the email is completely inaccessible, no one's going to be able to read or hear it or consume its content. So it's pretty crazy. If you were to go and know that your email is going to be inaccessible, are you going to still send that email? So some accessibility best practices here. I recommend everyone left align text. So anytime that your kind of paragraph text spans over 2 or 3 lines, it becomes difficult for the user's eye to follow, just because there's larger gaps for someone to need to jump. So left align text, absolutely recommend. And then when you're embedding links contextually, as in kind of a lot of people will use kind of click here, and they will embed the destination link over here. What happens with screen readers is they actually will compile a list of links for the individual to follow with their keyboard. And what ends up happening is you get kind of a laundry list of here, click here, and there's no context. So when you are embedding links in a paragraph, I absolutely recommend trying your best to kind of embed them contextually so someone knows that they're understanding. I'm going to go to this link, which is Guide to Getting Started. Again, so sorry. It's the hiccup I wasn't expecting.
No, it's keeping everyone's attention, as they're saying in the comments. It's like, ding, keep paying attention. You're still here.
And then the third kind of piece, which I absolutely recommend, and it can be difficult with dark mode taking over, but keep in mind what kind of color contrast you're using. This was, you might not even be able to tell, but this little purple box down here was the call to action button in an email I received the other week. And it actually says proceed to checkout. It's orange over purple. So I can't see it. Maybe I'm struggling with color, but yeah, Jason, thanks so much for popping in that color contrast analyzer. But it's so important to think of these things. Just because it works for you and your brand might not mean that it works for your entire audience. And then when you're thinking about mobile, image-only emails can be really difficult because they don't necessarily scale down to a smaller device size, right? I'm on my big monitor right now, and an image-only email I might be able to consume on my desktop, but if I was to open that same email on mobile, how small is that content going to shrink to? So the importance of using live text and creating a balance of live text and imagery is so important. You can still include those nice like squigglies and blobs and colors that make your email pop or drive attention to your call to action or what you want that user to do. But ensure you have live text so that if images cannot load, you still have access to what the content of that email is. And then just again, keep in mind file sizes, which I know we have a slide on this coming up, but not everyone has access to 5G internet. And when I'm trying to read my emails, on the underground or at the cottage, which I shouldn't be doing anyways, reading emails on vacation, it's not going to load very fast. And I'm not going to consume your content. Lindsay, just to give you an answer on live text, it's essentially instead of, going into a tool like Canva or Photoshop and creating an image where you have text baked into that image in your email tool, just typing out what you want, whether it's in HTML or a drag and drop like live text field there. Just if you were to turn images off or the email lands in spam, you'll still be able to see the text. All right, pass it over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And, thinking through kind of your brand font stack with live text, again, could be a whole other topic of conversation, but thinking through, is there a Google font that you can use that is a match to your brand font? And then what are all the different fallbacks to that is super important as well. So thank you for answering that. So, just thinking about images, like we know this is what grabs attention, but how do we keep them lightweight? And I love that you brought up the mobile example. We want them to be scalable. So any sort of, detail that we want to come through, how do we think about that on the smallest size device? That's something super important that we haven't really even noted here. But aside from that, really thinking about keeping the images lightweight. So, we've done some research about how that varies by country, and there are different internet speed kind of standards in different countries, and it will kind of send you down a rabbit hole trying to think it through. But for the majority of our audience, that's North American, that's really under 3 megabytes. So it's not a huge image, especially if you're thinking about GIFs. So it's all a balancing act, right, of trying to think about how we keep the file sizes light enough, but still get across that really cool visual imagery. So, definitely a balancing act, and also thinking through load times. So we know that we want everything to load in basically less than 2 seconds. If we only have 9 seconds or 6 seconds or less, we don't want to waste that precious time by having images that are going to be slow to load. And then tangentially related, the overall HTML size is super important. Someone was just bemoaning their clipping issues in Gmail, so keeping them under 100 really helps to prevent those clipping issues too. So unfortunately, these are all the things we have to think about as email marketers of like, we get really excited because we want to create something that looks really cool, but then we have to think through, these standards on the back end too. And then one just story I would love to tell that is related to images. So, I'm sure we all know that different applications and devices all have their different sets of emoji, and that's a legality. They license different emoji to different devices, and they all create their own sets. But I think it's really interesting that sometimes they have different context. So this is a real example. Android has since updated their dancing woman, but it's a real example from an email I sent where I'm like, ooh, it's going to be like fun and exciting and sexy. But the Android users got this kind of blob instead. So the whole context of my email was changed a little bit. And I've had a similar thing happen to me with a fall leaf that looked a little bit like a pot leaf to some people. So, checking those different emojis for different devices is always really important so that you can understand how the majority of your audience is going to see things.
I was going to say this, this woman dancing, like I am all of her. I relate to every single one of these. And I think honestly, like I'm okay if the Android one lands in my inbox, like that's fun, but keeping in mind,
I think it would make me laugh.
It would.
Good to know. Yeah. Awesome. Well, at least I amused someone. That's good. And then, just to mention, this is true for everything. It doesn't just apply to images, but using a tool that's going to help you check these things out before you send your email is super important. So whether that's the rendering or accessibility, where there are some great tools out there, we have an accessibility checker. I know that Parcel has some really good tools as well, or whether it's the images themselves, checking the load time and the overall weight of your email before sending it is just absolutely crucial. So I've seen lots of folks put some great tools here in the chat. Tiny PNG is a good one for image size optimization, or you pick. So great shout outs here where everyone's just kind of fighting the good fight, trying to make it work. And then, we're going to address a few more questions here. But I did want to shout out at least the connection to deliverability and really beautiful emails. And, sometimes people might be like, oh, visual emails and deliverability don't go together. But I think they can. And just with some important caveats. So, the live text is so important, and having that, accessibility and those with images off, be able to get into your emails and understand what you want them to do is going to help with your deliverability. And it's going to help people engage with your emails. And then the second point, maybe controversial, but, I think with email, it's an annoying thing to say, but it always depends. So it depends on your program, and it's really hard to have hard and fast rules of, I had someone tell me a long time ago, it's 60-40. 60-40 is the ratio that you have to stick to. But unfortunately, things vary. Your audience varies. You may be new to an ESP and doing IP warming, and that can impact, whether you want to have more live text or not. It may be a welcome email versus a non-welcome email, and that can change things and change your engagement. So I think it kind of depends, and you have to really know your audience very well. And then just the last point is that the number one thing that is going to help you be really visual and have great deliverability and get to the inbox is just your overall email strategy and your overall email engagement. So if you are having really smart re-engagement rules and suppression rules, and you really have an engaged audience and they're getting information that they want from you, that's the number one thing that's going to help you out. So really, I'm impressed that we were able to get through so much. There are some questions over here that we can go through, but honestly, I want to hear Naomi's results first.
Yeah, so I ran this test for 5 months. It was our onboarding welcome email. Variant A was text-based, and variant B was a nicely designed email with product imagery of what you can do with Parcel. And after running it for 5 months, because I was like, I just want to set it and forget it, allow some seasons to pass through, many recipients. What we found was variant B, which was the nicely designed email, actually had statistically significant more clicks, but variant A ended up having more conversions to a paid subscription. And we had so many replies to variant A, I think because it looked like, it was a one-to-one email from me. And what I was able to do was not only nurture people that had replied to variant A by answering questions about the platform, but we were able to close some of our largest contracts. And so I look at variant A as, this is the email we need to go with moving forward. Variant B might cause more engagement click-wise, but if we zoom out and look at it from the bigger picture, variant A was the winner. It was way more beneficial for Parcel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate on variant A, kind of see where we can work in more one-to-one touch points. Marcy, yes, text-based emails. I think it did look like it was written directly to the recipients, which is what I wanted it to feel like. I wanted people to feel comfortable replying back or jumping on a call with me. And I think it wouldn't be necessarily successful for all businesses. Like I picture an e-commerce business, like if they were to just send me a text-based email being like, welcome, shop our clothes. I don't know if I would be as inspired to click through and shop. Those things might benefit from more imagery, but I'm surprised and I'm excited that kind of this minimalist email worked for me. And maybe it's because there was just a little bit of text so people had less text to read. I might try out like a minimal text versus maximum text and see if I lose people, which I feel like I might.
What was the action? It was just sign up. Was the action, or were there some other?
To encourage individuals to create their first email in Parcel. So Parcel's an email coding platform, and you can run your emails through an accessibility checker, and kind of highlight MSO conditionals, turn images off and on. Oh, what's going on? I'm so sorry. And so I wanted to just encourage engagement. They already had access to the platform, Lindsay. This was kind of their welcome email, welcome to Parcel. Here's what you can do with the platform. And I do wonder if it was that, reply to me if you have any questions.
Yeah, it seemed genuine and from you. Yes, the alert. Yes, it's because the webinar is on fire. That is exactly what's happening here. Hilarious. Well, so I'm curious. The more engagement group, did they just click through and then not do the thing you wanted them to?
Yeah. They pretty much.
They just.
I wonder, if I just lost them. I wonder if they clicked through and were like, oh, this is just another marketing email and didn't do what I needed them to do. So, yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, the moral of the story is test everything and assume nothing, which, again, an annoying truth of email of like, oh, I have to test literally everything. But it's a super interesting.
It also, for me, it benefits me because I'm on a really small team and I don't necessarily have the resources to design an amazing email every time I want to send something out. And in previous positions, I've been kind of at the helm of, hey, this email needs to look exactly like our website, and you got to work with design and creative. And so, it's my button. It's the button under my desk, actually. I'm doing this. So for me, the argument of a text-based email actually does more beneficial things for the company than a nicely designed one. Allows me to move a lot quicker than needing to go through a creative process. So, yeah.
Sure. And I wonder if it's also the type of communication. If you were doing a feature announcement, for example, where you really wanted to show, hey, there's a new thing here. There's a new thing
There's
here.
My next test.
There you go. That could be your next test versus, really just saying, hey, I'm a human and I'm on the other side of this. You can get started. I'm going to give you the confidence to do it. I would be interested to see that because I think you're right. Certain verticals or communication types might not perform the same. So, testing into that as well. Great. I'm looking back through to see if we answered many of these questions as we went, which good job us. And thank you everyone for the awesome chatter and communication. It was great. I think we answered some of these. Does alt text work best for B2B? Has anyone tested it for B2C? So that's a good point too. So just as part of this discussion, does B2B versus B2C matter whenever sending just a simple welcome email? I'm guessing it might. I'm guessing it does.
I would say alt text should be for anyone, right? Essentially, alt text is just going on top of an image if the image doesn't display. So,
I think she was asking about a text-only email. Okay. Sorry. Yes.
Then I would agree maybe, but good to test again. I've seen some e-commerce brands or B2C brands start to test out like text-based emails, and I really do love some of them. So maybe it's a trend. Maybe we'll just have an all simplified inbox pretty soon. We'll all be forced to read because there's no visuals.
It will be like, there's nowhere else to go. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I'm looking here. I think we answered many of these questions. I love that everyone's just like commiserating as much as anything else. But if there are any other questions, feel free to chat them up right now.
I will say on the I've seen some big brands sending email that are 100% image-based that look beautiful, but I wonder how they do in terms of deliverability. This for me, I mean, if your subscriber base is 100% able-bodied and they all have amazing internet connection and they all find your
next level.
I feel like it gets longer and it knows when I'm speaking. It knows when I'm trying to communicate.
It does. No, it does know.
I think if your subscriber base is, again, completely able-bodied, amazing internet connection, and can engage with those emails, you'll probably have great deliverability because inboxes are going to see that you're forming connection with your subscriber base. But if you can't even reach those individuals, they're consistently seeing that your emails are inaccessible, they're just going to be deleting them because they'll recognize you as a brand that can't send.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, I used to work with a brand who was very, very loved and had incredible engagement on their emails. And they used tools like Live Clicker or, other tools, Movable Ink, and used a lot of image-based elements. They did have a balance of other things, but they had great deliverability because they had kind of that fan base and the love from their audience that kind of counteracted it. Now, of course, they were using alt text, using some other techniques to think about accessibility and making sure their emails were available for everyone. But I think there's some truth in that.
Brooke, answering your question of how long should it take to design an email, like the examples you had in your slides, I think it completely depends if you're a designer or a developer. Like, some people could probably do this in their sleep. I would take a long time because that's not I'm not a designer by trade. So I've worked with teams where it could take them a month because it's not their entire thing that they're working on. It could take a week, it could take a couple of days. It completely depends on who's doing it, right?
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people talk about design systems and email, but that's where they really come in. And if you invest the time up front to create different modules that you're going to use over and over again, then you can move a lot more quickly. And you can even, test a lot of things up front so that you can feel more confident moving quickly and knowing that it's dark mode optimized and knowing you have everything in place. So that can help you move a little more quickly as well. And then maybe your month turns into a week, which could be a positive outcome.
Yeah. Daniel, your recommendations for subject line and length. Most people see emails first on their phone and often determine whether to open them based on the notification alert. So this is a fun plug for myself as a side project. I created a Google Chrome extension called Email Characters, where you can actually highlight text and see if it will cut off on major devices like Gmail on a mobile device. And I mean, I think rule of thumb, I try and keep it like subject line around 40 to 50 characters. And I also just consistently will test to myself on my phone to see if a word cuts off in a weird area, but I agree. I think it's really the subject line and pre-header that are going to encourage people to open your email. So being clear and concise and not defrauding someone with like, you want a free car. It's going to be the key to your success.
Got to pay off the promise. Right. Well, and front loading some of those important words up front to kind of ensure that you're not going to get cut off could be smart as well. So I think, can someone share the Chrome extension? Yes, could you repeat the Chrome extension for us?
Yes, it's just called Email Characters. I can pull it up and I'll drop it in the chat.
Email Characters. Cool, thank you. Well, this was a really awesome discussion, and I really appreciate all of the conversation and everyone showing up and giving us your time, and thank you so much. And this will be sent out to everyone automatically, so I appreciate you guys signing up, so it'll come to your inbox.
Thanks so much for having me.
In a text-based email.
This is great.
Absolutely, thank you. I think you should go out of your apartment or house now.
I'll go for a walk, see if everything's okay.
They're not giving up.
I'm like, I'm still alive now, but thank you, everyone.
All right. Good luck. Thanks again. Appreciate it.